Start. Yesterday we have discussed lab reactions in lab frame and reactions in center of mass frame, and what I had told you that in general, if there are two particles or there is one particle and another is a nucleus or whatever it is, and you want to have n number of particles in the final state. The example which I took was E minus P going to E minus P going to E minus. Then I said that if you have sufficient energy, you can have a pi 0 over here, or you can have n plus pi plus, or you can have E plus P plus pi plus pi minus, or E minus n plus pi plus pi 0, etc. That means in general, when we talk about any interaction, any reaction, then in principle you can have n possibilities of having particles in the final state, depending upon the lepton number conservation, baryon number conservation, and charge conservation. Okay, but who is going to decide that you have got sufficient energy to produce, say, this to have this reaction, or to have this reaction, or any other possible reaction? Who tells us? It is the threshold energy of the reaction. It is the threshold energy of the reaction which tells you that whether that reaction would take place or not. Then by definition what it is the minimum amount of energy, minimum amount of kinetic energy that the projectile possesses to execute a reaction. Minimum amount of energy or minimum amount of kinetic energy. When I say that minimum amount of energy, that means that includes rest mass energy, kinetic energy plus rest mass energy. Otherwise, this is the kinetic energy of the particle. Therefore, what is threshold value of the interaction? Threshold value of the interaction is the minimum amount of energy required to execute a particular reaction. Okay? And this energy would give the existence of the particle in the final state. Existence means I need the presence of the particle in the final state. The minimum requirement is that these particles should exist. When I say that these particles should exist, then that means at least I must have an energy which will give me the rest mass of this, and this, and this. Rest mass of these particles, or in general rest mass of these. I don't need any kinetic energy. First, I need that these particles should exist in the final state. Okay, therefore the minimum kinetic energy the projectile that would possess to have the desired number of particles in the final state. Desired means that I want only the existence of those particles without any kinetic energy. Now, fortunately, if I will get more energy, then those particles will share the kinetic energy among themselves. But first, I need that their rest masses should be there. Then only the particle will exist. And what do I mean by that? Suppose I am talking about a general reaction A plus B going to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus dot dot n. Then momentum conservation tells us that PA plus PB must be equal to P1 plus P2 plus dot dot plus Pn. P1 plus P2 plus dot 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 plus Pn. This will be the 4 momentum conservation. Now, if 4 momentum conservation is this, then that means square of this would also be true. Okay, if momentum energy conservation tells us that the total energy momentum in the initial state must be equal to the total energy momentum in the final state, and that means if that is true, then square of this will also be equal. Now, yesterday we have seen that 4 momentum square can be written as the energy component minus the momentum component. Here also this will be written as P1 plus P2 plus dot dot plus Pn, 0th component square minus P1 plus P2 plus Pn whole square. Okay, I have separated the 0th component and the 3 component. Okay, the 0th component will be the energy component. Okay, the 0th component will be the energy component. Therefore, this will be EA plus EB whole square minus PA plus PB whole square. Here this will be E1 plus E2 plus En whole square minus P1 plus P2 plus Pn. Is it clear to everybody?
Sir, now it is three momentum vector.
Yeah, I am putting a vector sign over here. As you can see, wherever I will write 3 momentum, I will put a vector sign over it. Okay. Otherwise, if I am not putting any vector sign, I will write either in magnitude, that will stand for the 3 momentum. Now you see, yesterday we have seen that the lap frame is the frame where one fellow is at rest and another guy comes with certain kinetic energy. Okay. Now one guy is at rest, then that means what is PB for that? Free momentum when the particle is at rest, this will be 0. And what will be the energy of the particle be? We have discussed it yesterday. This will be the rest mass of the particle. Okay, this will be the rest mass of the particle. Mic, please off kar do. This will be the rest mass of the particle. Now, in the final state, what is my wish? I want to calculate the threshold energy of the reaction. And what I have told you about threshold energy, that this is the minimum required energy to have the desired number of particles in the final state. Now, what is my desire? My first desire would be to have the existence of the particle. सबसे पहले वो particles वजूद में आ जाए, existence में आ जाए. And then if I will have extra energy, those particles will share that extra energy. That means when I am telling you that their existence is important, that means the momentum part won't be there. I need just the energy to execute the reaction. And what will be E1, E2, E3, En? They will be replaced by existence.
Yes. Rest mass energy.
Rest masses. Rest masses of the particle. Okay? That means if you can notice again, this is EA square plus MB square plus twice MBEA minus PA square. And EA square minus PA square, yesterday we have seen that is equal to MA square. Therefore, you have MA square plus MB square plus twice MBEA. That is equal to M1 plus M2 plus Mn whole square. Okay? Therefore, let me write it here. This will be MA square plus MB square plus twice MBEA. This will be M1 plus M2 plus Mn square. And this implies that EA will be equal to M1 plus M2 plus Mn square minus MA square minus MB square upon twice M. This will be the total energy of the particle A. Now what I have told you, please mic off kar do. Total energy would be equal to the
Sir, where is the PA square term?
Which PA square? See here, this was EA square, this was minus PA square. EA square minus PA square is nothing but MA square.
Yes.
Okay? So therefore, EA is M1 plus M2 plus Mn whole square minus MA square minus MB square upon twice MB. This is the most general expression that you can write for the energy of the projectile A. Required energy of the projectile A to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10 particles in, or any n number of particles in the final state. But this EA consists of the kinetic energy term plus the rest mass energy term. Therefore, this EA consists of the kinetic energy term plus the rest mass energy term. Therefore, in principle, rest mass we cannot change for any particle. That is always fixed. That means what will be the kinetic energy of the particle A? That would be equal to M1 plus M2 plus Mn whole square minus MA square minus MB square upon twice MB minus M. In some of the books, you will be able to find this as the threshold energy of the reaction. But basically it is the kinetic energy with which we have to play, and therefore we have to supply the kinetic energy to the particle so that we can execute such type of reaction. Therefore, what is the threshold energy? This is the minimum energy required by the particle A to have desired number of particles in the final state. Okay, I am changing the slide. Before I change, let just look at it. What it consists of: the m1 plus m2 plus mn whole square minus ma square minus mb square upon twice m. Now suppose I write a reaction. Yes.
Sir, in 2-3 questions before, PV square was 0 only due to na 3 momentum x coordinate.
The particle was at rest.
Yes, sir. And what about PA, sir?
Here, a particle is coming with certain energy and momentum. Yesterday I have defined the lab frame that the particle will have certain energy and it will have certain momentum. The particle, that is what I call it as projectile. One fellow is at rest and another guy is coming with certain energy and momentum.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Suppose
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, yesterday when we were talking about left frame, at a point you introduced the concept of virtual photon. Sir, please, sir, recap that concept, sir, please.
Okay.
What we were saying.
Let me just finish it off and then I will come back to it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes,
for example, if I say I want to have such a real photon is striking a proton, and we want to have proton and a pi zero. A real photon is striking a proton, and I want n plus pi plus, or a real photon is striking a proton, and I want to have p plus pi minus. Okay. Then, since the rest mass of photon is 0, therefore, what will be E gamma? As you can see, E gamma will be equal to how much? E gamma will be equal to, for
Mass
this
of proton.
reaction, mass of proton plus mass of pi zero square minus mass of initial proton square upon twice mp. While in this case it will be E gamma will be equal to mp plus m pi plus m pi minus square minus mp square upon twice mp. Okay. Is it clear? If I write a reaction something like P plus P going to P plus P plus P plus P bar. This is a possible reaction. You are you have the baryon number conservation, you have the charge conservation. There are no leptons, you don't bother about them. Now the energy of the threshold energy that we talk about, this will be equal to Mass of the final particle is square. What is the difference between antiproton and a proton?
Of charge, sir.
Of charge. And
Spin.
Spin.
no, there is no. Spin for proton as well as for antiproton is half. Spin of particle and antiparticle does not change. Okay? Electron is also a spin half particle, and positron is also a spin half particle.
Baryon number.
Baryon number. Okay? Baryon number for proton is +1, and for antiproton it is -1. Baryon number changes. If it is a lepton number changes. If it is a charged particle, charge of the particle changes. And if there is a magnetic moment of the particle, the magnetic of the moment of the particle also changes sign because the charge of the particle changes sign. What are the common points between particle and antiparticle? Mehak, what is the common point between particle and antiparticle?
Sir, spin is same.
Yeah,
Mass also.
mass would be the same. Then lifetime of the particle would be the same. Lifetime, mass, and what else?
Magnitude of charge.
Yeah, magnitude of the charge would be the same. Then lifetime also. Suppose neutron is a particle, its antiparticle is anti-neutron. What is the lifetime of a neutron? Around 15 minutes. It is approximately 890 seconds. आप लोग नेट पे देख लीजिएगा exact value. Then the lifetime of anti-neutron is also 890 seconds. If electron is a stable particle, it does not decay, then positron is also a stable particle. If proton is a stable particle for you, then antiproton is also a stable particle. If a particle X has a lifetime, say T, then antiparticle will also have the same lifetime. Therefore, masses would be the same, magnitude of the charge would be the same, magnitude of magnetic moment would be the same, and the lifetime of the particle is exactly equal to the lifetime of the antiparticle. Okay. Therefore, Mn is Mn bar, tau n is tau n bar, mu n is magnitude of magnetic moment of neutron is the same as the magnitude of the magnetic moment of antineutron. Charge of the neutron is the same as the charge of the antineutron. Okay? Is it clear? Therefore, what should I write here? Anybody?
Sir, thrice of MP.
4 of MP. Why thrice?
4 of MP.
Proton
Same
is the
mass.
same as mass of the proton
Mass
minus
of the antiproton.
2 MP square upon 1 is a target, another is the projectile, and that will be equal to
सर वहाँ भी
16
MP
minus-
स्क्वायर आएगा ना? सर 4mp स्क्वायर माइनस mp स्क्वायर। सर एक तो टारगेट है।
तो टारगेट में भी तो हम लोग लिख रहे हैं ना, माइनस एम ए स्क्वायर माइनस एम बी स्क्वायर। देखो,
यस सर, यस सर।
therefore this is how much? This is 7 mp. 7 mp means 7 into 938 MeV. This will be the threshold energy of the reaction. That means the kinetic energy of the proton, incident particle, this will be equal to how much? This threshold energy minus the rest mass energy of the particle. And what is the rest mass of this? Is mp. That means the kinetic energy of this incident particle should be equal to 6 mp. Total energy is kinetic energy plus rest mass energy. Okay. Now if I ask you the question, a neutrino interacting with a proton, and you have, say this neutrino is muon type, and you have a muon plus a proton plus a pi plus. What should be the threshold energy of the reaction? Then you will say that E threshold, then you will assign the energy to the neutrino. Since neutrinos are massless particle, therefore all the energy will be taken as the kinetic energy of the neutrino. Therefore, E threshold will be the same as the kinetic energy of the particle. This will be equal to mu plus mp plus m pi whole square. That means 105.6 plus 938.26 plus 140 square minus 938.26 square upon 2 into 938.26. This will be the threshold energy to produce mu minus plus p plus pi plus in the final state. Is it clear?
Yes sir।
Now you can calculate the threshold energy for any reaction, and that is why I have given you a master reaction, A plus B going to 1 plus 2 plus n. Okay, you won't find such reaction in the books. They take a typical example to show the threshold energy. Okay, but that is the master equation where you have m1 plus m2 plus dot dot mn whole square minus ma square minus mb square upon twice mb. Using that, you can calculate the threshold energy for any process, isn't it? Now, the other important point, this we have obtained as the threshold energy for the reaction. I want to, instead of lab frame, I want to do the experiment in the center of mass frame. Then what will be the required energy to have these desired particles in the final state? Now recall yesterday's lecture. I introduced S is equal to PA plus PB whole square, and then I had told you that square root S will be PA plus PB, the 0th component is square, because the intercenter of mass, the PA plus PB center of mass, this is equal to 0. They come with the same magnitude of momenta with opposite direction. And this we call it by the name W. When I will take a square root, I have to take a square root here. That is why I have removed 2. This center of mass energy, this is equivalent to the energy that you have in the lab frame. MP square. What was S? PA plus PB whole square. This will be MP square. And then since both are the protons, therefore twice MP square plus twice MP lab square root. This will be the corresponding energy in the center of mass frame. Therefore, what you will do, you will just put the value of E threshold here. You will get the energy, and that will be the center of mass energy to have the desired number of particles in the final state. Therefore, it is not that you need separate energy, center of mass energy for the lab frame and center of mass frame. To execute a reaction, the required energy that you can directly correlate always. But what I had told you, that if you want to have 14 TeV of center of mass energy at LHC, you need 7 TeV and 7 TeV of protons coming from the opposite direction. But in the lab frame, since one guy is at rest, then the energy that you require becomes really very large. Okay. Therefore, using this, you can calculate the center of mass energy also, corresponding center of mass energy. Okay. So this is how we define threshold energy of a reaction. Is it clear to everybody? Should I move ahead?
Sir, lab frame is that with respect to the observer at LHC.
No, not LHC. See, what I am telling you, that suppose at LHC, proton-proton collision is taking place. And the total energy that is being generated here, it is 14 TeV. Therefore, what I told you yesterday, that this Tp, kinetic energy of the proton, because the rest mass energy yesterday we have seen is 10 power minus 3 TeV, we don't talk about that. And this kinetic energy is 7 TeV. Therefore, 7 TeV proton, kinetic energy of protons are coming, they are colliding to give you a 14 TeV of center of mass energy. Now, in lab frame, what happens? That one is at rest and another proton is the projectile. And this comes with kinetic energy. And this we have seen that this required energy to have this 14 TeV is approximately 10 power 5 TeV of kinetic energy for this proton. Okay. For example, if I say that electron-positron collision I want to have, then say this is of 1 JeV, this is of 1 JeV, then how much is total center of mass energy? 2 JeV. Total center of mass energy is 2 JeV because they are coming from the opposite direction. Therefore, P minus plus P plus, this is equal to 0. Okay, this is the basic definition of center of mass frame, that the magnitude of the moment of the two particles would be exactly the same. Now, if I want to repeat such scenario in lab frame, then what I had told you, that S will be equal to MA square plus MB square plus twice MB EA lab. Okay, and that will be equal to 4, because center of mass energy is 2 JeV, that means square root S is 2 JeV. 4 JeV square. Now 4 JeV square means what is the electron mass? 0.5 MeV. 0.5 MeV means 0.5 into 10 power minus 3 GeV. That means this will be 10 power minus 6 GeV square, 10 power minus 6 GeV square. 10 power minus 6 GeV square in front of 4 GeV square is a negligible quantity. But that will play important role here, because this will be 0.5 into 10 power minus 3 into EA lab. Okay, see here we have GV square, here we have GV hidden. Therefore 2 into 0.51 and into the minus 3, what is EA lab? $4,000 GV. That means 4 trillion electron volt. 4 trillion electron volt. That means then you will have to give energy of 4 trillion electron volts to this electron in laboratory frame, while in center of mass frame just you are giving 1 GeV to this and 1 GeV to that, and you are getting 2 GeV center of mass energy. But the important point is, once you have this center of mass, once you have this energy in your box, then whether that is a lab frame or that is a center of mass frame, the observable would be the same. Okay, you have to reconnect within a few seconds. The observable would be the same. Therefore, this black box is showing you the total energy available at your disposal. Now, if with this energy of, say, center of mass energy of 2 GeV, you are getting X number of particles or N number of particles, and the particles are few of them, few of L type, few of M type, few of N type, few of T type. Then in center of mass frame also, if you have the available same amount of energy, then the observable would be the same. And that is why we say that cross section is a large quantity. Is it clear to everybody?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, we have discussed lab frame, we have discussed center of mass frame, and we have also discussed threshold energy of a reaction. Now let us come to the original topic, and that was cross section of a given reaction. Okay, what is cross section? Simplest meaning is it is the probability of interaction. Okay, what is it is? It is probability of interaction. It is area over which say A plus B interacts to give you C plus D. Okay. Now, if the cross section for the process A plus B that gives you C plus D is, say, the value is of X, then now when A plus B will interact to give you, say, F plus G plus H, then the cross section won't be the same. Cross section will be something like Y. Okay, therefore it is the area over which A plus B interacts to give you C plus D, or it will give you F plus G plus H, or the basic definition is that the total number of scattering over time is proportional to the total number of incident particles. Incident particles, number of particles falling per unit area, per unit time. This is what we call as flux, incident flux. This is what we call it as flux. Total number of incident particles, okay? And to the number of target particles per unit area in the path of the beam. The total number of scattering over time is proportional to the total number of incident particles, that is known by the name flux, which is nothing but number of particles falling per unit area per unit time, and to the number of target particles per unit area in the path of the beam. Say this is a cubical box where you have, say, there are n particles per unit volume. There are n particles per unit volume, okay? And the flux of the particles coming per unit area, per unit time is, say, flux of particles per unit area per unit time. That means number of particles falling per unit is phi I. Okay, that means I have the projectile where, say, 100 particles are coming along the z direction, and falling on this target, but this is a cubical target. This has got a volume, while here this has got the dimension of an area. Therefore, if I take a slice of this, say of length dx, then ndx will give us the number of particles present in an area, because what is the unit of this n? Number of particles per unit volume. Per unit volume is centimeter cube per centimeter cube, and dx is centimeter. Therefore, this unit is centimeter, is number of particles present per centimeter square. Therefore, the incident particle is phi I, which is what we call as projectile. It is the number of particles that is falling per unit area per unit time, and ndx is the number of particles those are present in a unit area. Okay, therefore these are the two quantities which you should understand very well, and that is why it is written the total number of scattering over time is proportional to the total number of incident particles and to the number of target particles per unit area in the path of the beam. It is important. Suppose my projectile is in direction and I have placed the target along the y direction. What is going to happen? Nothing, because the target is not in the direction of the beam. Therefore, the important is you have to place the target in the direction of the beam. Then projectile will always come in the units of per unit area per unit time. Therefore, you have to present the target particles in a unit area. Okay. Therefore, you say that the density is n particles per unit volume. Then I will ask you that suppose you have got a loaf of bread, and I will say that okay, let us talk about loaf of bread has some volume. Then I will say that let us talk about a slice of bread which has got a thickness dx. This is the slice of bread which has got a thickness dx, and it will contain certain number of particles per unit area. Certain number of particles per unit area. Now the important catch is, if the density of this box is high, if the density means number of particles contained in this box. Suppose you have 100 particles per centimeter cube in this box, 1000 particles per centimeter cube, or 1 million particles per centimeter cube. Now if you have got 1 million particles per centimeter cube, then the probability of interaction increases, and that I am telling you by taking a simple example. Suppose I have got a room, and this is my drawing is poor, therefore you have to bear with me. Suppose there is a room where a few balloons are kept, 4 or 5 balloons are kept, and I have given you a pebble and I have told you to hit one of the balloon from some distance. Now what will happen? Sometimes your pebble is going to hit the balloon and sometimes it won't. Okay. Suppose I have tried 100 times and 10 times I was able to hit the balloon. Then I will ask you that what will happen when you will try 1000 times? 1000 times you take this pebble and hit the balloon. What will be your answer? How many times you would be able to?
100.
100. Now if instead of that I increase. Therefore, what is this? This is giving you probability of interaction. 10 upon 100, 100 upon 1000. And maximum what can happen? You have thrown it 100 times and all the time it has hit one of the values. Then that means what will be the probability? The probability would be 1. Otherwise, it will always be less than 1. Isn't it? And to a layman, this is nothing but a cross section. It is the probability of interaction. It is the scattering between the two particles. Okay? And what is happening? If, say, instead of 5 balloons, I have 25 balloons over here, then what will be your conclusion? That means I have increased the number of balloons by how many times? 5 times. Okay? Therefore, the probability of interaction will become large. And there are chances that 50 times I would be able to, instead of 10, 50 times I would be able to hit the balloons. That means that if I am increasing the density of the particles in the target, then what is happening to the scattering probability?
It increases.
It is increasing. Now, instead of throwing one pebble at a time, I am telling you to throw 5 pebbles at a time. Then again, many pebbles are coming and therefore the probability of interaction will increase. Okay? Is it not? More pebbles are coming, more pebbles would be able to hit the target particle. Therefore, that means you are increasing the number of incident particles per unit area per unit time. Or you are increasing the number of target particles per unit volume such that in a length element dx also the number of target particles are increasing. Therefore, what is happening? In physics, what happens? That you have so many particles here, and you are trying with a single particle. I'm talking about a strong interaction. I'm talking about electromagnetic interaction. I'm talking about weak interaction. Okay? Now, what I have told you yesterday, that a strong interaction cross section is how much? Is 10 power minus 24 centimeter square. Electromagnetic, it is around 10 power minus 30 centimeter square. Weak, it is around 10 power minus 40 centimeter square. This you will see everywhere in the books, but nowhere it will be written what physically it means. And try to understand this. It's very important. Okay? Simply this means that if I am going to try this projectile 10 power 24 times, then there exists a probability, if this is a strongly interacting system, the interaction will take place through a strong interaction, then the probability of hitting the target, if there is only a single target particle, if only there is a one particle sitting over here, and one particle is as a projectile. Then to hit this projectile with this target, how many times I have to try? I have to try 10 power 24 times. I have to try 10 power 24 times. For weak interaction, how many times I have to try? I have to try 10 power 40 times. Then only there will be a single interaction. Now, instead of that, if I tell you that, okay, I am making your life simple, there are 10 power 24 particles, 10 power 24 particles present per centimeter square in this area. Then you will say that, sir, if there are 10 power 24 particles present in this area, then if you give me a pebble, then for sure I am going to hit one particle among these 10 power 24 particles. I am going to hit one particle among these 10 power 24 particles. But if I ask you the same question, that what will happen when you will consider weak interaction process, then you will say that, sir, for the weak interaction process, I will have to try this 10 power 16 times, such that 10 power 24 plus 10 power 16, that would make 10 power 40. So to have one event, to have one single interaction, here you have to try for weak interaction 10 power 16 times to have one interaction with these 10 power 24 particles present per centimeter square before the projectile. Or equivalently, if my incident flux is 10 power 16 particles per unit area, per unit time, falling on this target particle, then what we will say that for weak interaction, what is the chance? The chance is among these 10 power 16 particles, one particle would be able to get scattered from one of the particles present inside this target material. One particle out of 10 power 16 particles would be able to interact with one of the particle inside this target. While if I say that, no my dear, this interaction I am talking keeping electromagnetic interaction in mind, then your answer will be that among these 10 power 16 particles, how many particles would be able to interact with the particles present inside this area?
To the power 6.
10 to the power 10.
10 power 10. 10 to the power 10 particles would be able to interact with one of the particles, or 10 to the power 10 particles, there will be interaction, because 24 plus 16 is 40, 10 to the power minus 30 is there. Therefore, 10 to the power 10 particles would be able to interact with one of the particles somewhere inside the target element. And this is the basic spirit of cross section. And nowhere in the books it is given that it is the probability of the interaction. It is the chance of the interaction. And the chance of interaction for a nuclear physics process, which is a strongly interacting process, is entirely different from a particle perspective, is entirely different from a neutrino perspective. I will continue the discussion on this tomorrow, okay? Starting at 9 a.m. But try to digest this concept, and if you can raise questions, that would be good. Okay?
Sir, can you please recap tomorrow this topic?
Recap. Okay, sure. है ना? I will
Sir,
try.
thank you, sir.
लेकिन मुझे बता देना कहाँ से रिकैप करना है, मुझे याद वाद रहता नहीं है ना, तो बोलना जहाँ से मैं वहां से पढ़ाने लगूंगा. मैंने पहले ही बताया कोई
Yes, sir.
किताब नहीं है, कोई किताब नहीं है. इसके बाद जहां पे मैं वो डिस्क्रिप्टिव आऊंगा तो फिर से जेटिली या ग्रिफिथ फॉलो करता रहूंगा. लेकिन ऐसी कोई किताब अभी दुनिया में नहीं लिखी गई है जो इन चीजों को इस तरह से एक्सप्रेस करती हो. इसलिए इसको समझना बहुत जरूरी है ना. इसको आप समझ लोगे
Yes, sir.
तो आप जिंदगी में कभी क्रॉस सेक्शन नहीं भूलोगे या कभी नहीं सोचोगे कि ऐसे इंटरेक्शंस में क्यों डिफरेंट होता है ना. और कल शायद मुझे वो भी बताना बाकी है, वर्चुअल फोटोन और रियल फोटोन. ये जान लो कि रियल फोटोन मासलेस होता है. ऑल रियल फोटॉन्स आर ट्रांसवर्स इन नेचर. दैट मींस इट्स प्रोपगेशन इज परपेंडिकुलर टू इट्स पोलराइजेशन, व्हाइल वर्चुअल फोटोन they are their four momentum square is not zero, and they are longitudinal as well as transverse in nature. All real photons are on mass shell, all virtual photons are off mass shell. But if you want to have more, we can discuss it tomorrow. अब मैं रोजे में बिल्कुल थक चुका हूँ.